is not president.
As the Texas GOP tries to grab power, Republicans nationwide amp up the threats.
Democrats always come back.
This is self-defense for our democracy.
But can Democrats actually stop them? I'll go one-on-one with Congresswoman Zoloff, leading the charge in California. And broken promises? RFK Jr. slashed vaccine funding. Is he breaking commitments he made to Congress?
He just makes it up.
Inside Politics, press reporting from inside the quarters of power starts now.
Good morning. Welcome to Inside Politics Sunday. I'm Manu Raj. As President Trump prepares for his high-stakes meeting this week with Vladimir Putin, the world is wondering where Trump will ultimately come down, and whether Putin will get his way to occupy big swaths of eastern Ukraine, despite unleashing the bloodiest war Europe has seen since World War II. Now, Trump has yet to slam punishing sanctions on Russia, despite threats to do so by this past Friday. And even suggested that land might be swapped in a new peace deal. But just yesterday, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky insisted that his country won't cede territory. All is uneasy. European leaders met in the UK yesterday with Vice President Vance to press their demands. But it could all come down to Trump, whose relationship with Putin over the years has evolved from more praise to frustration, now a new openness to cutting a deal.
I believe that he feels that he and Russia did not meddle in the election.
I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine totally settled. I'll have it done in 24 hours.
I've always had a good relationship with Putin. And, you know, he wants to end the war.
He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin.
We get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin, if you want to know the truth. President Putin, I believe, wants to see peace, and Zelensky wants to see peace.
All right, joining me now are CNN's Christian Holmes, Zoe Connor-Youngs from the New York Times, and the Cook Political Reports, Amy Walter. Nice to see you all. Good morning. I mean, this has to be, feel free to disagree, but the biggest meeting, most important meeting of Trump's second term, right now, maybe even arguably the first term too. You look back at it, the future of Europe is at stake here, the future of this deadly conflict, the world order, Russia's power in the world. You reported overnight that there's some discussion perhaps that Volodymyr Zelensky could be part of this meeting. That seems probably less likely, it seems, reading through this, but you cover the White House, Kristen. What is the expectation going in, and is there any belief that Trump may accept what Putin is suggesting here, which is a ceasefire in exchange for occupying significant portions of Ukraine?
Well, it's certainly possible. I mean, when he was asked about it last week, he basically said, well, some territories might have to be swapped and some might be given back to Ukraine. He wouldn't say no in terms of making a deal that would cede some of Ukraine's territory to Russia. So that's certainly on the table. We also know that this is a discussion that they were having with European allies because they are trying to get some European buy-in before that actual sit-down meeting between the two of them. And just on Zelensky and that part of it, it is not that there would be any world in which they sit down first for a trial act with the three of them.
Trump had suggested that
right,
privately.
but they were always going to have just a Putin and Trump bilateral meeting. Trump wants that meeting. Putin wants that meeting. They want to sit down face to face. The only indication that we have that Zelensky might be involved is that afterwards they decide it's time to have a meeting with all of them.
But it's interesting you think that potentially that Trump could accept what Russia's suggesting.
I think we have to see how this meeting goes. I mean, I know right now that they are focused on trying to hammer out exactly what it is that Putin wants, that he presented to Steve Witkoff in their meeting, that then Witkoff brought back to Trump, and then also what European allies would be willing to sign off on.
And that's what concerns the European allies. That's what concerns Ukraine. Zelensky, multiple times on social media over the last 24 hours, raised concerns about ceding any territory to Ukraine. This is what he said in one of those posts. He said, "We will not allow the second attempt to partition Ukraine. Knowing Russia, where this is a second, there will be a third." You know, this meeting is what Putin wants. Putin wants to break up the European order here, which is why there's real fear in the rest of the world that this meeting is taking place.
And Putin has wanted a conversation just with the United States, sidelining Zelensky, essentially to make this a real estate negotiation, right? Even though it's about a real sovereign nation here. Zelensky's fear is that this will once again be another example of two large powers in the globe carving up the territory of a smaller nation, of a smaller power, without him having the necessary buy-in for peace for his nation at this point. It's just when you look at the arc of the United States' stance and approach to Ukraine, it's a really remarkable change. You know, in the Biden administration, they used to say, we're not going to go to the table unless Ukraine is there. Now we have a situation where the two sides at the table don't involve the nation that was invaded in the first place as well. So you can see Zelensky's concern, and outspoken concern at this point. It will be interesting to see just the details of any potential arrangement, particularly what would happen with the Donbas region. That just a little while ago, I remember the United States struck a deal to also access critical minerals in that region as well. So seeing how the details of this work out, we'll have to watch.
Yeah, that's going to be so instructive. But how does the American public feel about Trump? As of course he is now at the center of this. How this ultimately plays out is determinative of his position here. What does the American public think? Overall, just 33% of all voters support the way he has handled this. This is among the lowest of the issues that tested in this Gallup poll. But even among Republicans, it is at 70%. And that is, that's high, but it's lower than all those other issues, which is 80, 90% with Republican voters.
Now, some of it is the clip you played leading into this of, I can solve this in 24 hours. Obviously, it's a lot more complicated than that. The thing for me, Manu, and you appreciate this as well, is watching Congress just being completely sidelined by all of this.
Even as they're pushing sanctions.
Even as they're pushing sanctions, that got put on the back burner. They left for recess without handling this. The president has effectively been able to make this a one-on-one deal, but this is really the president going, making a deal, Congress really sitting back, and we'll see whatever comes out of this. Will this be the opportunity for Congress to step in if they dislike what comes out of this? I'm skeptical of that because they haven't stepped in at all, but the degree to which the legislative branch has now become basically ancillary in every domain, but in this one it's been quite remarkable.
And especially since there were 80 plus co-sponsors on this bill that would impose 500% sanctions, secondary sanctions on people who purchase Russian energy. Trump has suggested much less. He can do that on Friday, decide not to move ahead because this meeting is taking place. But even so, that all that support in Congress, they're not really saying a whole lot here, which is really interesting. Which is one of the reasons why there's a lot of concern in the world about this meeting with Putin is what happened the last time they met back in 2018 in Helsinki.
Would you now, with the whole world watching, tell President Putin, would you denounce what happened in 2016, and would you warn him to never do it again?
So I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today.
Extremely strong and powerful, talking about Trump, or Putin, over the intelligence community, U.S. intelligence community. Regardless of that, it's the general fear that Trump could get played by Putin.
Yes, of course. And this is kind of the all-over fear that everyone, even close to Donald Trump, will have because of the fact you have him surrounded by people like Marco Rubio, like J.D. Vance, who do believe that Putin is a master manipulator and that he is trying to manipulate this situation too. Now, I will say we are in a slightly different situation than we were then, only given the fact that President Trump has been embarrassed by Putin now on several occasions. He has said, one, that he was going to solve this crisis in 48 hours, 24 hours. The reason he hasn't is because Putin has been playing and has been giving him, as he says, lip service, saying he'll do one thing and then the next day he bombs another city in Ukraine. And so if there's some skepticism there, that might change the dynamic. However, whether or not that comes forward when the two are actually face to face, that remains to be seen. We know Putin knows how to talk to Donald Trump.
And the other issue that you mentioned, Trump tried to end these wars immediately. Gaza, and we have Trump say, we have the Israel Security Cabinet approving a plan to take control of Gaza City. And Netanyahu, of course, is pushing this, but Trump hasn't said much at all about it. Even though European leaders, world leaders around the world are condemning what Israel is doing here, is Trump essentially greenlighting this effort?
Well, when you look at when Trump first came into office, you had these statements of bravado, ending the war in Ukraine in 24 hours, talking about what essentially experts would say was a forced displacement of civilians from Gaza as well, and saying that he could strike a deal there. Trump is transactional on the world stage and sees these issues as wins and losses. I don't think he sees this as a winning issue here. Therefore, you're seeing him distance from something that's becoming increasingly intractable and a humanitarian catastrophe.
And we'll see ultimately he decides to weigh in on that. Obviously, huge issue with so much at stake. All right, up next.